Snow did not fall, it arrived, like an army of quiet ghosts reclaiming the land. The ranch stood half buried already, a timber-ribbed creature crouched against the mountains, smoke leaking from its chimney in thin, uncertain ribbons. The kind of smoke that suggested a man who cooked only because a body demanded it, not because a heart enjoyed it. The rancher was a man sharpened by isolation. His face carried the geography of a hard life, cheekbones wind-carved, jaw stubbled like dry prairie grass, eyes the pale blue of distant storm ice. He was not old, but the world had aged him early. He moved with economical grace, every gesture trimmed of excess, like someone who had learned long ago that energy wasted is energy mourned. His name was Silas Creed, a man spoken of rarely, and only in tones that sounded like caution. The woman came from the opposite end of fortune. Her footsteps were faint, swallowed by snow before they finished forming. She was young, but hunger had thinned her into something older than youth, something bordering on legend. Her long hair, black and dense, was threaded with snowflakes that clung like stubborn flowers refusing to bloom anywhere else. Her coat was not a coat at all, just a faded buckskin wrap, stitched and restitched, the seams telling a louder story than her voice ever did. Her name was Nayeli Gray Fox, a woman the town thought they understood, until the day she proved them wrong simply by not disappearing. Silas first noticed her not through sight, but through absence, the sudden hush in his horses. Animals sense desperation before humans name it. The stallion nearest the gate had stilled, ears forward, breath puffing low, watching something beyond the storm. Silas stepped to the window. Frost webbed the glass, but through its opaque filigree, he saw her silhouette, slight and wavering, like ink spilled on a white page. Nayeli did not pound the door when she finally reached it. She knocked once. A small sound, a polite funeral for her pride. Silas opened it, expecting a plea. What he did not expect was the shape of it. She stood steady despite trembling, gaze lifted despite shame, palms open despite wanting to hide them. Her voice emerged soft, yet deliberate, a contrast that unsettled him more than shouting ever could. "I'm starving," she said, the word stripped of ornament, raw as split wood. "Let me work in your kitchen for one day's food." Behind her, far down the slope, the town watched like an audience, waiting for humiliation to complete its circuit. They had dared her to approach the coldest man in the county as a prank dressed like charity. They assumed he would laugh first, reject second, close the door third. Betting had begun before sunrise. A pair of brothers had wagered a month's wages that she'd be gone before noon. The local postmaster placed coins on silence, convinced Creed wouldn't bother wasting words at all. But Silas did not laugh. He did not even frown. He only studied her face, really studied it, the way a man studies something that might alter his understanding of the world if he looks too long. There was starvation there, yes, but beneath it, something unextinguished. A stubborn ember of dignity that cold had tested but never killed. He stepped aside. Not an acceptance. Not yet. Just an acknowledgement that winter had chosen a guest for him. The kitchen wrapped her in warmth, like a long-forgotten blessing suddenly remembered. The air smelled of onion, rendered fat, and smoldering mesquite, earthy, grounding, almost medicinal. The room was disorder incarnate, pans unwashed, herbs hanging brittle from hooks, a kettle stained with disuse, flour sacks folded like abandoned bedrolls. Loneliness had domesticated chaos here. Nayeli saw no judgment in the mess, only work, and work to someone hungry is oxygen. She began without instruction. She swept first, slow and thorough, broom bristles whispering over plankwood. Then water drawn from the well, arms straining but rhythm unbroken. Then fire stoked, wood stacked with ritualistic care. Potatoes peeled with a small hunting knife whose handle bore the tooth marks of years of use. Silas watched her movements from the doorway, posture relaxed but attention wired tight. He had not hired her, yet he found himself memorizing the cadence of her labor. He placed a bowl of stew on the table while she scrubbed. Venison, carrot, wild garlic. Steam rose thick and spiraling. She stopped, not because food called her, but because respect did. She sat, slowly, ate, slower, each spoonful measured, deliberate, reverent. Shame makes a person rush. Survival makes them savor. She was eating to stay alive, not to beg forgiveness for wanting to. The town murmured louder as hours passed. Gossip carried farther than storms. Creeds gone soft. A woman like that brings trouble like wolves bring night. She'll drain his pantry and vanish. She'll stay, and he'll regret it. The brothers spat into snow, irritated their bet was aging poorly. The postmaster scratched his ledger. Annoyed silence was turning into a story. But conflict was not only outside. It lived in Nayeli too. The way she avoided the polished silver cup hanging unused near the sink. The way she flinched when the floorboard groaned, as if expecting accusation to rise from it. The way her shoulders tightened whenever the horses snorted, bracing for rejection to re-enter the room, like a man returning after forgetting something. She feared not the cold. She feared being seen as someone the cold was right about. Silas understood fear intimately. Fear had once moved into his chest and never paid rent again. He recognized it in her posture, her hesitations, the way her resilience looked like something she wore out of necessity, not confidence. He said nothing, yet found himself performing his first small gesture of grace. He rinsed the water bucket and refilled it quietly, setting it beside the stove without meeting her eyes. A man like Creed could not give comfort in words, only in actions disguised as chores. As daylight dimmed, snow thickened into something territorial. The wind began its low predatorium. The ranch felt like an island whose borders were about to be contested. Nayeli worked harder as dusk encroached, not frantic, but driven by an instinctive need to prove presence. Silas lit the lanterns himself, glass chimneys glowing like captive suns. Shadows stretched long across the kitchen, the room becoming a cathedral of quiet survival. Then came the sound that truly marked conflict's second act. Hoofbeats. Many. Coordinated. Intentional. Not the wandering gait of lost riders. The disciplined march of men who believed the world owed them obedience. Settlers emerging from snowfall, forming a perimeter around the ranch like a closing argument. Silas stepped to the door again. Nayeli froze mid-task, blade hovering over a carrot, breath paused. The world outside wanted her to return to the role they had written for her. The world inside was undecided. The role she wanted was not survival anymore. It was dignity. Silas opened the door fully. Cold barged in like an uninvited verdict. Settlers sat mounted, rifles holstered but implications loaded. Their leader, broad-shouldered, voice lacquered with entitlement, called out, "Send her back." The joke's over, Creed. Silas did not glance at Nayeli. But his silence, this time, was not dismissal. It was gathering, a storm inhaling before it earns its name. Nayeli set the knife down, not in surrender, in preparation. She stepped forward. The settlers shifted, startled. Hungry women were meant to shrink, not advance. Cold men were meant to agree, not stand like doorframes refusing to bend. Silas finally spoke, voice low, unused for emotional grammar, rough as a winter road. She came for a meal. I gave her work. Work was the bargain. The bargain's finished when I say it is. The settlers frowned, unsure whether to be amused or threatened. Nayeli stepped beside Silas, not behind, beside. Her breath now rose into the cold, not like a prayer, but like a signature. The settlers hesitated, not because guns impressed them, but because hesitation is what happens when a story refuses to follow its stereotype. Silas stepped back inside and shut the door gently. The click was small, but the meaning echoed like a canyon remembering a shout. Nayeli exhaled, staring at the door as if waiting for the next page to turn itself. It did not, because she had just turned it, and outside the snow settled, like a crowd lowering their voices when the stage suddenly proves it belongs to someone else. Winter had delivered hunger, but warmth had delivered consequence, and consequence, once warmed, begins to look a lot like fate.